The silver ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of a small yellow star system. Captain Nari stood on the bridge, her tall frame casting shadows across the control panels. She had seen 1,000 worlds in her century of service, but something about this one made her pause. Life signs detected on the third planet, her scanner officer reported. Complex civilization. They have satellites in orbit and... Wait, they're using chemical rockets, primitive fusion reactors. Nari walked to the viewing screen. The blue and green planet spun slowly before her. How primitive. They haven't achieved faster-than-light travel yet, Captain. They're barely reaching their own moon. This complicated things. The Valinir Dominion had rules about such species. Very strict rules. Nari ordered a full survey. For 3 weeks, her crew watched the planet called Earth. They intercepted radio signals and television broadcasts. They studied human history through their own electronic records. What they found disturbed them. The humans were violent. In just the past century, they had fought 2 massive wars that killed millions. They had created weapons that could destroy their entire planet. Even now, different human nations pointed these weapons at each other, ready to end everything in minutes. They poisoned their air and water. They destroyed their forests. They seemed determined to kill themselves before they ever reached the stars. We must report this to the Council, Nari said finally. Her voice was heavy. She knew what would happen next. The Valinir Council met in a chamber that had stood for 5,000 years. 70 representatives from across the Dominion gathered to decide Earth's fate. Executor Tewin called the session to order. He was old, even by Valinir standards, and his face showed no emotion as he reviewed the evidence. The species calls themselves humans, Tewin announced. They number 8 billion. They have split the atom but not achieved interstellar travel. By our law, we must determine if they pose a threat to galactic peace. Captain Nari presented her findings. Images of human wars filled the chamber's displays. Mushroom clouds rising over cities, soldiers killing each other in trenches, starvation and genocide. The council members watched in silence. They are dangerous, one council member said. Look at what they do to each other. Imagine what they would do to us if they had our technology. They would spread like a plague, another added. Better to end this now while they're confined to one world. The debate went on for hours. Some argued for immediate action. Others suggested monitoring the humans for another century. But the majority seemed clear. Humanity was too dangerous to allow into the galaxy. Then Ambassador Hana stood. She was almost as old as Tewin, but where he was cold, she was warm. Where he saw threats, she looked for hope. I have also studied these humans, Hana said. Yes, they fight. Yes, they destroy. But I ask you to look deeper. She changed the displays. Now the chamber filled with different images. A human doctor working in a disease-ravaged village. Scientists from different nations cooperating on a space station. A crowd of humans marching peacefully for civil rights. Art galleries full of beautiful paintings. Concert halls where orchestras played music that made even Hana's ancient heart stir. They are young, Hana continued. We were once young too. Have we forgotten our own history? Before we unified, the Valinir clans fought each other for 2,000 years. We nearly destroyed ourselves 3 times. But we learned, we grew. We became better. That was different, Tewin said. We had no choice but to evolve. These humans may never change. Or they may surprise us, Hana replied. I have watched their progress. Each generation becomes less violent than the last. Their wars grow less frequent. They begin to understand their planet is fragile. They reach for the stars with hope, not hate. They are on the edge of something great. Will we destroy them just as they begin to find their better nature? The chamber erupted in argument. Half the council wanted humanity erased from existence. The other half was uncertain. The debate stretched into a second day, then a third. Finally, Tewin called for a vote. All who favor cleansing the human homeworld and preventing this species from becoming a galactic threat, signal now. Lights appeared across the chamber. Nari counted them. 35 votes for destruction. All who favor granting clemency and allowing humanity to continue, signal now. More lights. Nari counted again. 34 votes for mercy. 1 council member had not voted. All eyes turned to Ambassador Hana. The decision falls to you, Tewin said. Choose wisely. If humanity becomes a threat, their blood will be on your hands. Hana closed her eyes. She thought of the human music she had heard. The poetry she had read. The way human parents held their children. The same way Valinir parents did. The way humans laughed and cried and dreamed. I vote for mercy, she said. I believe in them. The chamber went silent. Taywin's expression never changed. So be it. Humanity will be offered a choice. 3 days later, a Valanier shuttle landed in front of the United Nations building in New York. The entire world watched as Taywin himself emerged. Through translators, he addressed Secretary General Do-Hyun and the leaders of Earth. We are the Valanier Dominion, Taywin said. We rule 3,000 star systems. We have watched your world and found you lacking. You are violent, destructive, and dangerous. Our law demands your elimination. Panic spread across Earth, but Taywin continued. However, by a single vote, you have been granted clemency. We offer you 2 choices. Accept our oversight and guidance, and we will help you reach the stars. Or choose independence, and we will leave a warning beacon around your sun, marking you as quarantined and potentially dangerous. Choose. Secretary General Do-Hyun stood. He was a small man compared to Taywin, but his voice was steady. We choose independence. We will prove ourselves worthy of the stars on our own terms. We will show you that your faith in us, however small, was not misplaced. Taywin nodded. As you wish. You will not see us again unless you leave your system. Do not make us regret this mercy. As the Valanier prepared to leave, Ambassador Hana approached Do-Hyun privately. She handed him a small cube that glowed with soft light. This contains some of our basic technology, she whispered. Shield principles. Clean fusion designs. Nothing that will let you conquer the galaxy, but enough to help you survive and grow. I'm not supposed to give you this, but I believe you deserve a chance. Why? Do-Hyun asked. Why do you believe in us when your own people don't? Hana smiled. Because I see in you what we once were. Flawed, yes. Dangerous, yes. But also capable of greatness. Prove me right, Secretary General. Show the galaxy that mercy is not weakness. The Valanier ships departed. Earth's nations unified their efforts, studying Hana's gift and pouring resources into peaceful advancement. In orbit, the warning beacon pulsed its message to the galaxy. Quarantined species. Approach with caution. But on Earth below, humanity looked up at the stars with new determination. They had been judged and found wanting. They had been spared by a single vote, one person's faith in their potential. They would not waste this chance. They would prove that mercy was not a mistake. Whatever it took, however long it required, humanity would earn its place among the stars. The age of judgment had ended. The age of proving had begun. 300 years passed like water flowing down a mountain. The Valanier Dominion moved on, forgetting about the small blue planet at the edge of their territory. But Earth did not forget. The world transformed. Nations that had once pointed weapons at each other now worked together. The Data Cube Ambassador Hana left became humanity's treasure. Scientists studied it day and night, learning the principles of shield technology and clean fusion. But they did not simply copy what they found. They improved it. Engineer Minho was the one who changed everything. He was born on Mars Colony, part of the first generation of humans raised off Earth. He had grown up reading about the Valanier and their faster-than-light drives. The basic principles were known to humanity through careful observation and scattered data. But the Valanier method required massive amounts of energy and rare materials. Minho thought there had to be a better way. For 15 years, he worked on his theory. He called it quantum slipstream travel. Instead of punching through space like the Valanier did, his method slipped between the folds of reality itself. It was faster, cleaner, and required only a fraction of the energy. When the first human ship jumped to Alpha Centauri and back in 3 days, the crew celebrated. The journey that should have taken months with Valanier technology took less than a week with human innovation. We've done it, Minho told his team. We've earned our place among the stars, but humanity moved carefully. They remembered the warning beacon. They remembered being judged. Every ship that left human space carried a simple message. We come in peace. We come to learn. The first contact with another species happened near a red dwarf star. The Chithar were insect-like beings, intelligent but trapped on their dying world. Their sun was expanding and they had no way to escape. They had sent out distress signals for decades, but no one answered. Captain Sora brought her ship into orbit. She was young for a captain, barely 40, but she had trained her whole life for this moment. First contact with an alien species, not as conquerors, not as a threat, but as helpers. This is Captain Sora of the human vessel Harmony. We received your distress call. We want to help. The Chithar were suspicious at first. No species had ever helped them before. But Sora was patient. She showed them recordings of Earth's history. She told them about the Valinir judgment and humanity's promise to prove themselves worthy. Physicist Jiho came aboard with a team of scientists. He studied the Chithar sun for 6 months. The problem was complex, something the Chithar had tried to solve for generations. But Jiho approached it differently. He used techniques from human history, from Valinir physics, and from his own unique perspective. "We can't stop your sun from expanding," Jiho told the Chithar leaders. "But we can shield your planet. A massive barrier in space that will deflect the solar radiation. It will buy you 500 years to evacuate at your own pace." The Chithar were amazed. In 6 months, this young human solved what they couldn't solve in 6 generations. When the shield went up and their world cooled, the Chithar Council named Jiho as an honorary member of their species. News of humanity's help spread. Other species reached out. Some needed technology, others needed medical help. A few just wanted to trade and learn. Humanity helped them all. Scientist Yuna made the next breakthrough. She took Hana's shield technology and evolved it into something remarkable. Her adaptive barrier systems could analyze incoming attacks and adjust in real time. They learned and grew stronger with each encounter. "Defense is not about being the strongest," Yuna explained to her students. "It's about being the smartest." Human colonies spread to 40 worlds. But they were different from other species' colonies. Humans always asked permission before settling. They shared their technology freely. They invited other species to live alongside them. Soon, human ships carried not just human crews, but volunteers from dozens of different species. Captain Sora became famous across the galaxy. Her exploration fleet was the first truly diverse group of beings working together as equals. When pirates attacked a trade convoy near Rigel, Sora's mixed crew showed what cooperation could do. Human tactics combined with Chithar engineering and Trellin, speed created a defense that saved every ship. Humanity developed a philosophy they called the debt of mercy. Every human child learned about Ambassador Hana. They learned about the single vote that saved their species. They were taught to remember that mercy saved them, and mercy should define them. "We were spared when we deserved destruction," teachers told their students. "We must never forget. We must always choose mercy when we can. We must always help when we're able." This philosophy spread beyond humanity. Other species heard about it and liked it. They began to wonder why they fought each other when cooperation brought so much more. Meanwhile, the Valinir dominion grew stagnant. Their empire was vast, but it was old. Their technology hadn't advanced in 1,000 years. Their rigid traditions prevented new ideas. Young Valinir looked at humanity's rapid progress and felt frustration with their own society's slowness. Ambassador Hana was still alive, kept young by medical technology. But she was considered a fool by most of her people. Hana and her pet humans, they called her. She didn't care. She watched humanity's progress with quiet joy. Secretary General Dohyun had passed away a century earlier, but his descendants continued his work. His great-great-grandson, also named Dohyun, proposed something radical. He called it the Accord. "We should create a federation of free species," young Dohyun told the Galactic Assembly. "Not an empire. Not one species ruling others, but equals working together for the common good. Any species can join. All have equal voice. We share technology, knowledge, and protection." 57 species joined in the first decade. The Chithar were first. They brought their engineering skills. The Trellins brought speed and grace. The Mori brought philosophy and art. Humans brought innovation and leadership. The Accord grew faster than anyone expected. Within a century, it became one of the largest powers in the galaxy. But it was different from other powers. It had no emperor, no supreme ruler. Every species had representation. Every voice mattered. Trade flourished. Technology advanced at incredible speeds. Problems that seemed impossible were solved through cooperation. When the Krell faced a plague that killed millions, Accord scientists worked together and found a cure in months. When the Zoltan Empire threatened a small species called the Ven, Accord ships positioned themselves as peacekeepers until diplomacy could work. Humanity became known as bridge builders. They could speak to anyone, work with anyone, find common ground with anyone. Their history of overcoming their own violence made them experts in solving conflicts. Engineer Minho was old now. but still working. He watched new human and alien engineers improve his slipstream drive every year. "This is what I hoped for," he told Yuna at a ceremony honoring their work. "Not just human progress, but everyone progressing together." Yuna nodded. She was teaching at the Accord Academy now, training the next generation of scientists from 50 different species. "We were given a gift," she said. "Not just the technology Hana gave us, but the mercy that let us live. We're paying that gift forward." The Valanier watched all this from a distance. Some admired humanity's achievement. Most remained prideful, refusing to acknowledge that the violent primitives they nearly destroyed had become leaders and innovators. But Ambassador Hana knew the truth. Late at night, alone in her quarters, she looked at images of human cities where dozens of species lived in harmony. She read reports of Accord achievements. She smiled. "I was right," she whispered to herself. "They just needed time. They just needed a chance." The warning beacon still orbited Earth's sun, its message unchanged. "Quarantine species. Approach with caution." But now ships from 100 worlds came to Earth not with caution, but with respect. They came to learn from humanity. They came to join the Accord. They came because humanity had proven that mercy was not wasted on those who truly wanted to change. 3 centuries had passed. The judged had become the judge's equals. The threatened had become the helpers. The violent primitives had become the galaxy's most dedicated peacekeepers. But the true test was yet to come. The warning came from the edge of the galaxy. A research station went silent. Then another. Then 10 more. When scout ships went to investigate, they found nothing but empty space and debris. Commander Hyunwoo studied the reports with growing concern. He was the head of Accord Defense Force, a position he never wanted but accepted out of duty. His job had been easy for decades. The Accord rarely fought anyone. Most conflicts were solved through talking and cooperation. This was different. "Show me the last transmission," he ordered his communications officer. The screen filled with static, then cleared for just a moment. A terrified Trellin captain appeared. "They're everywhere. They're like insects, but massive. They don't talk. They don't negotiate. They just consume everything," and the transmission ended in screams. More reports came in. An entire colony world gone dark. 3 defensive fleets destroyed. The attacking force was massive beyond imagination. They came from the darkness between galaxies. An invasion force that numbered in the trillions. The galaxy learned their name from a dying civilization's last message. The Skorath Swarm. They were a hive-mind species that consumed everything biological. Their ships were grown, not built, from the matter of destroyed worlds. Each victory made them stronger. Each defeat taught them nothing because individual Skorath meant nothing to the collective mind. The Valanier Dominion mobilized first. They had the largest fleet in the galaxy, ships that had maintained order for 5,000 years. Executor Taewon himself took command. He was ancient now, kept alive by technology, but his mind was still sharp. "We will crush these insects," Taewon declared. The Dominion has never been defeated. The Valanier fleet engaged the Skorath near their border. 5,000 ships, the largest force ever assembled, met the swarm in battle. Valanier weapons were powerful. Their shields were strong. Their tactics were proven over millennia. It didn't matter. The Skorath adapted to every weapon after the first use. Their numbers were endless. They didn't fear death because they had no individual consciousness. The Valanier destroyed 1 million Skorath ships, but 10 million more took their place. The battle lasted 3 days. The Valanier lost 2/3 of their fleet. Taewon barely escaped with his life. The proud dominion that had ruled for 5,000 years was pushed back to their core systems in 3 months. Other species tried to fight. All failed. The Chithar's engineering couldn't match Skorath numbers. The Krell's weapons were useless against their adaptive biology. The Zoltan Empire's massive armies were consumed and converted into more Skorath. Hundreds of species fell in the first year. Entire civilizations were erased from existence. The galaxy faced extinction. Commander Hyunwoo called an emergency meeting of the Accord. Representatives from 57 species gathered, many of them refugees from destroyed worlds. Fear filled the chamber. "We cannot fight them alone," Hyunwoo said. His voice was calm, but everyone saw the worry in his eyes. Every species that tried to stand alone was destroyed. The Valanier had the strongest fleet and they barely survived. Our only chance is together Together, how? A Chithar representative asked. We've seen the reports. The Skorath adapt to everything. They outnumber us by billions. How can we possibly win? Hyunwoo looked at his staff. They were human. Chithar, Trellin, Mori, and a dozen other species. They had worked together for years. They knew each other's strengths and weaknesses. Humanity has spent 3 centuries studying warfare, Hyunwoo said. Not to wage war, but to understand it. We remembered what we were, what almost got us destroyed. We studied every conflict in galactic history. Every battle. Every strategy. Not because we wanted to fight, but because we wanted to know how to stop fighting. He activated a display showing tactical analysis. The Skorath have a weakness. They're a hive mind. They think as one. That's their strength, but also their vulnerability. They're predictable. They adapt, yes, but they adapt in patterns. If we can disrupt those patterns, confuse their coordination, we can hurt them. The Valinir tried that, someone said. It didn't work. Because the Valinir fought using 5,000-year-old tactics, Hyunwoo replied. They're brilliant, but rigid. We need to be flexible. We need to combine the best of every species. Chethar engineering, Trellin speed, human innovation, Mori philosophy, Krell strength. Everything together, not separate. The Accord sent out a call to every known civilization. Unite or die separately. 70% of the galaxy answered. Ships from hundreds of species gathered at the Accord's fortress worlds. They trained together, learning each other's methods, combining their technologies, but the Valinir Dominion refused to join. Pride prevented them from accepting lesser species as equals. Taewon sent a cold message. The Dominion will defend itself. We need no help from primitives and insects. The war continued. The Skorath pushed deeper into the galaxy. They consumed world after world, growing stronger with each victory. The Accord forces fought desperate battles, winning some, losing more. They were buying time, but time for what? Scientist Yuna worked day and night with researchers from every species. Her adaptive shields helped, but they weren't enough. The Skorath always found a way through eventually. They needed something more. Engineer Minho was old now, over 200 years with medical help, but his mind still worked. He studied Skorath ship remains with a team of alien scientists. Their ships are biological, he said. Grown from consumed matter. That means they follow biological patterns. We need biologists, not just engineers. The breakthrough came from an unexpected place. The Mori were a species of philosophers and artists. They had no strong military, but they understood patterns in a way others didn't. A Mori named Dalim studied the Skorath hive signals and saw something others missed. They're not just communicating, Dalim explained. They're synchronized. Like musicians in an orchestra. If you could create the wrong note, the right frequency, you could disrupt the entire performance. Yuna took that idea and ran with it. Working with Minho and scientists from 20 species, they developed a theoretical weapon. A resonance generator that could disrupt the Skorath hive signal. But it was only theory. They needed data. Real combat data. Meanwhile, the Valinir Dominion was dying. The Skorath had breached their inner defenses. 3,000 star systems were reduced to 300. Millions of Valinir died every day. Their ancient empire, their proud civilization, was being consumed. Executor Taewon stood in his command center, watching his homeworld's defenses fail. Outside the windows, Skorath ships filled the sky like locusts. He had lived for 600 years. He had seen the Dominion at its height. Now he would see it end. A communication request came from the Accord. Taewon almost ignored it. Pride told him to face death with dignity rather than beg for help. But something made him accept. Admiral Jiwon's face appeared on the screen. She was young for her rank, barely 70, but she commanded humanity's largest battle fleet. She looked at Taewon with no judgment in her eyes. Executor, Jiwon said simply. We're coming. Taewon felt something break inside him. Why, we nearly destroyed your species. We refused your help. We called you primitives. I know, Jiwon replied, but 300 years ago, one of your people believed in us when no one else did. Ambassador Hana gave us a chance. We remember. We pay our debts. All of them. Tears ran down Taewon's ancient face. We don't deserve mercy. Maybe not, Jiwon said. But you'll get it anyway. That's what mercy means. Hold on, Executor. The Accord is coming. All of us together. The transmission ended. Taewon looked at his officers. Hope, something he hadn't felt in years, stirred in his chest. Above the Valinir homeworld, Skorath ships prepared for the final assault. Below, the last of a 5,000-year-old civilization waited for death. But help was coming. Ships from 100 species, led by the descendants of those who were once judged and found wanting, were racing through slipstream space. They carried hope. They carried mercy. They carried a weapon that might change everything. The galaxy's fate hung in balance, and humanity remembered the single vote that saved them. Now it was their turn to save others. The Accord Council chamber was full of angry voices. Representatives from dozens of species shouted at each other. The debate had gone on for 18 hours without rest. "Let them die," a Krell ambassador yelled. "The Valinir would have destroyed us if they could. They called us primitives for centuries. They refused our help," a Chithar agreed. "They're too proud to save themselves. Why should we sacrifice our people for theirs?" Chancellor Nari stood at the center of the chamber. She was named after the Valinir captain who first discovered Earth, a reminder of where humanity came from. She was tired. They all were. But this decision was too important to rush. "I understand your anger," Nari said. "The Valinir treated many of us badly. They are proud and difficult. But we're not talking about revenge. We're talking about who we are." She activated a display. Images filled the chamber. A young Earth, vulnerable and violent. The Valinir Council voting. One hand raised for mercy. Ambassador Hana's face, old and wise. 300 years ago, my people stood where the Valinir stand now, facing destruction, judged and found wanting. We deserve to die. By every logical measure, we should have been eliminated. Nari's voice grew stronger, but one person believed we could be better. One vote saved 8 billion lives. One act of mercy gave us a chance to prove ourselves. If we let the Valinir die now, we become the judges we once feared. We become executioners. Is that who we want to be? The chamber grew quiet. Species that had argued for hours looked at each other. They thought about the Accord, about cooperation, about the philosophy of mercy that humanity had taught them. "We were all judged once," a Mori representative said softly. "The Valinir found us primitive. But we grew. We changed. Maybe they can too." One by one, representatives began to nod. The vote was called. It was unanimous. The Accord would save the Valinir Dominion. Admiral Jiwan stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Redemption. Around her, 5,000 ships from 23 species prepared for battle. It was the largest combined fleet in Accord history. But against the Skorath numbers surrounding the Valinir homeworld, it seemed pitifully small. "Status report," Jiwan ordered. "Skorath forces number approximately 250,000 ships," her tactical officer reported. "We're outnumbered 50 to 1. The bridge crew looked at their admiral. She was young, but they trusted her. She had fought the Skorath for 3 years. She understood them better than anyone. 50 to 1, Jiwan repeated. "I faced worse odds." She hadn't, but her crew needed confidence. "All ships, prepare for slipstream jump." "We're going in." The fleet dropped out of slipstream space right in the middle of the Skorath swarm. The enemy was everywhere, their organic ships pulsing with alien life. They turned toward the Accord fleet like a single creature. "All ships, defensive formation Delta," Jiwan commanded. "Activate adaptive shields. Let's show them what cooperation looks like." The battle began. Skorath weapons struck Accord shields, but Yuna's adaptive technology, improved by engineers from 12 species, analyzed and countered every attack pattern. Human slipstream drives let ships appear and disappear faster than the Skorath could track. Chethar engineering kept shields powered longer than should be possible. Trellan pilots flew with impossible grace, but the numbers were overwhelming. For every Skorath ship destroyed, 10 more took its place. The Accord fleet was pushed back, taking heavy casualties. On the Valinir homeworld below, Executor Taiwan watched the battle. The Accord was losing. They were dying for his people. People who had called them primitives. People who had refused their friendship. "Open all channels," Taiwan ordered. "This is Executor Taiwan to all Valinir forces. We have been proud. We have been foolish. But we are not cowards. The Accord came to save us. We will save them. All remaining Valinir ships, join the battle." The last 300 ships of the once mighty Valinir fleet rose from the planet. They were damaged and depleted, but they fought with desperate courage. Ancient Valinir cruisers positioned themselves to shield Accord vessels. Valinir fighters flew suicide runs to protect their rescuers. Jiwan saw this and smiled grimly. "Commander Hyunwoo, you seeing this?" "I see it," Hyunwoo replied from his command ship. "Valinir sharing their shield frequencies with us. Never thought I'd see that. Adapt our formation. Work with them. Humans and Valanier side by side. The combined force fought harder, but it still wasn't enough. The Skorath kept coming. Then Jiwan received a transmission from the science vessel Breakthrough. Admiral, this is Yuna. We have the resonance weapon ready. But we need time. 20 minutes to charge and aim. We don't have 20 minutes, Jiwan said, watching her casualty reports climb. Then make time, Yuna replied. This is what we came for. This weapon can change everything. Jiwan looked at the tactical display. 20 minutes. It might as well be 20 years against these numbers. But they had no choice. All ships' new objective. Protect the Breakthrough at all costs. I don't care if we lose every other ship. That science vessel must survive. What followed was the most desperate defense in galactic history. Accord ships formed a wall around the Breakthrough. They took hits meant for the science vessel. They sacrificed themselves to buy seconds. Engineer Minho was aboard the Breakthrough running final calculations. He was over 200 years old and exhausted, but his mind worked perfectly. Resonance frequency established. We're locked onto their hive signal. Scientist Taiwan, a young human named in honor of the Valanier executor, monitored the weapon. Power at 60%. We need more time. 10 minutes, Yuna said. Her hands flew across controls. Just 10 more minutes, outside ships died. A Chithar cruiser exploded, protecting their flank. A Trellan destroyer rammed a Skorath carrier to stop it from reaching them. Human fighters flew directly into enemy fire. Commander Hyunwoo's ship took critical damage. His engines were failing. His weapons were offline. But he saw a Skorath dreadnought lining up to destroy the Breakthrough. All power to engines, Hyunwoo ordered. Ramming speed. Commander, no! His crew protested. That's an order. Get to the escape pods. Now his crew evacuated. Hyunwoo sat alone on his bridge, pointing his dying ship at the enemy dreadnought. He thought about his life, about the debt of mercy, about how humanity had been saved by one vote. This is how we pay it back, he said quietly. His ship struck the Skorath dreadnought at full speed. Both vessels exploded in a fireball that lit up space. On the Breakthrough, Yuna saw the explosion. Tears ran down her face, but her hands never stopped working. 90% power. Almost there. Admiral G1 watched her forces die protecting the science vessel. She had lost half her fleet. But they had bought the time. Weapon at 100%, Taewon reported. Locked on target. Ready to fire. Yuna took a breath. Everything came down to this. Theory becoming reality. Fire, the resonance weapon discharged. It wasn't visible like a laser. It wasn't explosive like a missile. It was a wave of energy tuned precisely to the Skorath hive signal frequency. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the battle space, Skorath ships suddenly stopped moving in coordination. They drifted. They collided with each other. Some fired on their own forces. The hive mind, the collective consciousness that made them unstoppable, shattered. It's working, the tactical officer shouted. They're confused. They're breaking formation. Jiwon didn't hesitate. All ships full attack. Hit them while they're disorganized. The Accord and Valanier forces struck hard. Without coordination, the Skorath were just individual ships, dangerous still but no longer unstoppable. The battle turned into a rout. Within hours, the Skorath forces around the Valanier homeworld were destroyed or fleeing. For the first time in 4 years, the invaders retreated. On the planet below, Valanier citizens came out of shelters. They saw the sky clearing of enemy ships. They saw Accord vessels in orbit, damaged but victorious. They had been saved by the species they once judged unworthy. Executor Taewon stood on a landing platform as Admiral Jiwon's shuttle arrived. He was ancient and tired, but he stood straight as she approached. Behind her came Yuna, Minho, and other heroes of the battle. Admiral Jiwon, Taewon said, his voice cracked with emotion. You saved us. After everything we did, everything we said, you saved us. Jiwon bowed respectfully. Ambassador Hana saved my people 300 years ago. We're just paying that forward. Where is she? I'd like to thank her. Come, Taewon said. She's been waiting to meet you. They found Ambassador Hana in a medical facility. She was ancient beyond measure, nearly 500 years old, but her eyes were clear and bright as Jiwon entered. Admiral, Hana whispered. You came. You saved us. Jiwon knelt beside her bed. You saved us first. One vote, one act of faith. You believed in humanity when no one else did. Hana smiled. Tears rolled down her wrinkled face. I always knew you would prove me right. Look at you now. saviors of the galaxy, teachers of mercy. I am so proud. Rest now, Jiwon said gently. You've earned it. Your faith in us changed everything. Hana closed her eyes, still smiling. I was right, she whispered. Tell them. I was right. She passed away peacefully that night, surrounded by humans and Valinir alike. The last of the old council. The one who believed when others didn't, but her legacy lived on. The war lasted 10 more years. With the resonance weapon, the tide had turned, but the Skorath swarm was vast. Every liberated system was a battle. Every victory cost lives. Humanity paid the highest price. They led the counter-offensive because they understood warfare better than any other species. Admiral Jiwon commanded the liberation fleets, pushing the Skorath back system by system. She died in the 3rd year, leading an assault on a Skorath staging world. Her ship was destroyed, but the mission succeeded. 50 billion beings were freed from Skorath consumption. As she died, her last words were broadcast across the fleet. Remember the debt. Always remember. Engineer Minho held a critical research station for 7 days while the resonance weapon data was transmitted to all Allied forces. The Skorath threw everything at him. His defenses failed one by one. He was 230 years old, far beyond normal human lifespan. His body was failing even as he worked. Get the data out, he told his staff. That's all that matters. They escaped on the last shuttle. Minho stayed behind, keeping the transmission going. When the Skorath broke through, he set the station's reactor to overload. The explosion destroyed 3 Skorath carriers. Commander Hyunwoo was gone, sacrificed in the battle for the Valinir homeworld. Scientist Yuna died in a laboratory accident while trying to improve the resonance weapon, a power surge that could have been prevented if she'd taken more time. But time was something the galaxy didn't have. One by one, the heroes who saved the Valinir fell. But each death bought life for billions of others. Each sacrifice pushed the Skorath further back. By the war's end, humanity had lost 60% of its population. 20 billion human lives gone. Their colonies were ruins. Their fleets were shattered. Earth itself had taken 3 direct Skorath attacks. The homeworld survived, but whole continents were devastated. The species that had grown so strong that had spread to 40 worlds was reduced to a shadow. Humanity stood on the edge of extinction, just as they had 300 years before when the Valinir judged them. But this time, the galaxy remembered. The Chaithar were the first to arrive. Colony ships full of supplies and materials jumped into Earth orbit. You saved our species, their leader transmitted. Now we save yours. The Trellans came next, bringing medical technology and doctors. The Mori brought food and shelter. The Krell brought raw materials and labor. Species after species, dozens and then hundreds came to human space. They came to rebuild. They came to repay. They came because humanity had taught them that mercy was strength, and they would not abandon those who saved them. The Valinir Dominion dissolved itself. In a ceremony watched by 3,000 worlds, Executor Taewon stood before the old council chamber and announced the end of their empire. For 5,000 years, we ruled through pride and power, Taewon said. His voice was strong despite his age. We judged others and found them wanting. We were wrong. Humanity showed us a better way. They were judged and found wanting, yet they became our saviors. Today, the Valinir Dominion ends. In its place, we join the Accord as equals, not rulers, and we dedicate everything we have to rebuilding those who saved us. The old empire transformed overnight. Every Valinir resource went to helping humanity recover. Former Dominion worlds opened their doors to human refugees. Valinir scientists shared all their knowledge. The species that once nearly destroyed humanity now worked day and night to preserve them. Chancellor Do-hyun, descended from the Secretary General who first met the Valinir, watched the recovery with amazement. In just 5 years, human colonies were rebuilt. In 10, Earth's continents bloomed again with cities and forests. In 20, humanity's population was growing once more. But something had changed. Humanity was no longer just another species. They had become something more. Children across the galaxy learned the story in schools. The judged ones who became saviors. The species that was spared by mercy and returned that mercy 1,000-fold. Teachers told their students about Ambassador Hana's single vote. About Commander Hyunwoo's sacrifice. About Admiral Jiwon's courage. About Engineer Minho's brilliance. About Scientist Yuna's dedication. Human philosophy spread like wildfire. The debt of mercy became the foundation of galactic civilization. Universities taught human history as required learning. The idea that mercy was not weakness but strength changed how species treated each other. Wars between species decreased dramatically. When conflicts arose, mediators used human techniques of cooperation and understanding. The old way of conquest and domination seemed barbaric compared to the human way of partnership and respect. 100 years after the war ended, the Galactic Commonwealth was founded. It was based on Accord principles but expanded to include nearly every known species. 3,000 civilizations joined together in the largest alliance in galactic history. Chancellor Nari, named for the captain who discovered Earth, stood at the founding ceremony on the Valinir homeworld. It was symbolic to hold it there. The place where humanity was once judged was now the place where the galaxy united. We gather today because of mercy, Nari told the assembly of 3,000 species. 300 years ago, one person believed in humanity's potential. Ambassador Hana saw something in us that we barely saw in ourselves. She gave us a chance. We used that chance to grow, to learn, to become better, and when the time came, we passed that mercy forward. She gestured to a massive monument behind her. It showed a Valinir hand and a human hand clasped together, carved from a single piece of crystal that sparkled in the sun. On its base were Ambassador Hana's final words, I always knew you would prove me right. This monument reminds us of where we came from, Nari continued. Humanity was judged and found wanting. We deserved destruction, but we were given mercy instead. That single act of kindness changed the galaxy. Today we commit to continuing that cycle. When we judge others, we will remember that we too were judged. When we consider destroying the weak, we will remember that we were weak. When we hold power over others, we will remember when others held power over us. The assembly rose in applause. Humans, Valinir, Chithar, Trellans, Mori, Krell, and thousands of other species stood together. Different shapes, different sizes, different ways of thinking, but united by a philosophy that started with one vote and became a galactic truth. On Earth, in the rebuilt city where the Valinir first landed, another monument stood. This one showed all the heroes who gave their lives in the war. Jiwan, Hyunwoo, Minho, Yuna, and thousands more, human and alien alike, united in sacrifice. Children played around the monument, laughing and chasing each other. Human children, Chithar children, Valinir children, all together. They had never known war. They had never known a galaxy divided. To them, cooperation was normal. Mercy was expected. Different species working together was just how things were. An old human, one of the survivors of the war, watched the children play. She had fought in the battle for Earth. She had lost friends and family. She had seen the worst the galaxy could offer, but she had also seen the best. She had seen species that once hated each other work together. She had seen enemies become friends. She had seen how mercy could transform everything. Was it worth it? A young Valinir asked her. All those lives lost. All that suffering. Was it worth it? The old veteran looked at the playing children. She looked at the monument. She looked at the sky where ships from 1,000 worlds came and went in peace. Yes, she said quietly. Yes, it was worth it. We paid in blood, but we bought something precious. We bought a future where mercy matters more than power, where cooperation wins over conquest, where different beings can live together in peace. Ambassador Hana bought that future for us with one vote. We preserved that future with our sacrifice. Now these children get to live in it. The Valinir nodded. He was too young to remember the old Dominion, the time before humanity changed everything. I'm glad she believed in you. So are we, the veteran replied. So are we. Across the galaxy, humanity's story became legend. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced, but because they remembered mercy when others forgot. Because they chose to help when they could have chosen revenge. Because they proved that the greatest strength was not in weapons or fleets, but in the choice to be better than you were. The warning beacon still orbited Earth's sun, a relic from another age. But now ships came from every corner of the galaxy not because of the warning, but despite it. They came to see the homeworld of the species that changed everything. They came to learn from human teachers. They came to visit the monuments and remember what mercy could accomplish. 300 years after the Valinir judgment, humanity had proven Ambassador Hana right. 500 years after that judgment, humanity had saved the galaxy. Now, centuries later, Humanity's legacy lived on in every child who learned that mercy was strength, in every species that chose cooperation over conquest, in every act of kindness that rippled across the stars. They granted humanity clemency once, by a single vote when extinction seemed certain. In return, humanity gave them salvation and taught the galaxy its greatest lesson, that the measure of civilization is not in how you treat the strong, but in how you treat the weak. Not in judgment, but in mercy. Not in punishment, but in hope.